Beautiful people, we have finally returned to America, to our home, on a world tour or from a world tour. We are going to have a series of videos, this one being the first of many. But today we're going to focus on our experience in Colombia. Right? It was a beautiful time. Shout out to all the people who were just a part of that experience, whether you were the hotel staff, whether you are airport shuttle, all of our amazing Uber drivers that got us to and from our location safely. We greatly appreciate it. And all the chefs.
Definitely
Can't forget the chefs. But we have 4 categories on how we're going to rank our Colombia trip and all the other destinations. Queen, can you please let people know what the 4 categories are?
The 4 C's we have are cost, culture, cuisine, and capades.
Capades. I think that's a real word. We might have made it up for the 4 C's.
I looked it up again because I was like, what does this mean again? And it's like adventures, like
yeah, on brand. So we're gonna go through those 4 different categories. We'll give a score to each one, and then we'll give an overall ranking for our Colombia trip. If you've been to Colombia before, or if you're thinking about going to Colombia, definitely make sure y'all put your questions, comments, concerns, ideas in the comments below. Queen, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, without further ado, let's get into the episode. Over 50% of Black Americans are unmarried, and only 2% of Black families in America have a net worth over $1 million.
We are on our journey to not only join that 2%, but grow that 2%.
Facts. I'm Devon Travell, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game, with my beautiful co-host.
I'm Sinclair, aka the Health Nerd. You can go to our website at them4show.com, our Instagram at them4show, and our YouTube channel at Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making.
And welcome to the M4 Show. Back, beautiful people, to the M4 Show. I'm your host, Devon Travell, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game, and I'm joined by my beautiful, my smiling, my professional traveling queen herself. Introduce yourself.
What is up, everybody? My name is Sinclair, aka the Health Nerd. And yeah, happy to be back in our usual podcast spot.
Oh yeah, it's been a minute. So today again we are going over our amazing experience in Colombia. That was the first thing that I learned. There is no U in spelling Colombia.
That's the first thing, huh?
That's the first thing that I learned when I was texting someone who'd been to Colombia before. She has a whole bunch of vlogs. I think her name is Marissa. Right, Ryan Reed gave us her contact information, but I spelled it Colombia, and she's like, "First mistake, never say Colombia, it's Colombia." This was when we were in the customs line in the airport. Right? But let's start off with arguably the most important category, Sinclair, which is costs.
That's only the most important category to him.
I think it's the most important category because I think when people are looking for where they're going to travel, the first thing they're like, how much is the flight? How much is the hotel? How much is this experience going to cost me versus going to a Costa Rica, going to a Mexico, going to a Spain? So, Queen, since you were the lead logistics operating traveler person, can you please let us know what are the different cost breakdown people can expect when trying to go to Colombia?
Yeah, so in general, Colombia is a very affordable place to visit. It's, for example, the US dollar, $1 is equal to about 4,500 Colombian pesos.
Bowling.
Right. So it goes pretty far, meaning that you will spend less in Colombia than you will in like Europe or any place that uses like the euro, which is more valuable than the US dollar, which that's all changing right now. That's a whole nother conversation. But for flights, I think flights is usually the biggest expense. So I'll start there. Now we did use miles for our flights, so I do want to preface that. However,
highly recommend it.
However, in all of the research and trying to figure out which leg of our trip would be best to use miles, I was also doing research on the price. So we live in Southern California, so we flew out of LAX. And so from LAX to Colombia, we stopped in Miami. It was about $700 for both of us. So
one way.
Yes, because we flew from there to Lisbon.
Everywhere.
So that is one way. So you can maybe average for two people, it will be about 1,500, round trip. Also depends on which airline, of course, but just to give you a rough estimate, the flights I know is usually the biggest biggest expense. So that is what we spent. The next biggest expense usually is the accommodation or the hotel or Airbnb or wherever you're going to stay. We did choose Airbnb for Colombia. So we had a beautiful spot.
It was really nice, y'all. We're gonna hopefully get some nice B-roll in here, some pictures in here for y'all. But when you literally walk into the Airbnb, you just see a huge wall of open light and an ocean view.
Yes, that's pretty much what sold me on it. Anytime I check and it's like a full wall of ocean views or water views or city views, I'm like, yep, that's the one, because we love a good view. It had a kitchen, it had laundry, it also had 24-hour security downstairs.
It had laundry, but we can't just skip over this. We did try to use the laundry machine. However, the rate of drying on that machine was very low.
It was.
And we had it in there for probably 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. The clothes never dried. So for almost half of the duration of our trip, we had mildewy clothes. So if you are going to use the washing machines and dryers in Colombia,
we don't know if that was our specific unit or if that's a standard thing. We don't know.
We were in a really nice spot. So I would imagine if it's not going to be high power there, it's not going to be high power in most places. Or we didn't use the user manual. We could have been using it wrong. You're right.
Sinclair. I don't want to put it on the whole.
You're right.
But one thing to keep in mind is if you plan to do.
I said, be careful.
If you plan to do laundry, just keep that in mind. Don't do it the day before you leave.
At all.
And just plan you may have to do it multiple times. You may have to run the cycle multiple times. But I digress. So we paid about $450. That's rounded up. So it was a little bit less than that.
For how many days?
For 6 days. 6 or 7 days. So it was a pretty good price. If you think about here in California, you're talking 150 to 200.
Easy. For oceanfront?
No, not for ocean. I'm talking like a Best Western.
Oceanfront?
Yeah, you talking about $350 a night.
Easy.
So that is really affordable, at least from our standards. And so that part is really nice. And again, it was a very nice place.
Security was at the door. Right. They checked us in. Pool, gym. We won't get into the gym, but it was kind of hot in the gym, but did have a pool, did have a gym. What else? Kitchen, two bathrooms, which was great for us. Nice shower, a balcony. So it was just an overall for the cost, amazing.
Centrally located, very centrally located. We were right on Boca Grande, and so we were Boca Grande, one of the two. And so we were right around a lot of good restaurants. So if we were hungry, we didn't have to worry about going to catch an Uber to go eat. We could literally just go down the street. There was also a bus stop where we could catch the hop on, hop off bus right down the street.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, highly recommend. It was really, we'll talk more about that in the Capades. But overall, Airbnb was a good option and very, very affordable. For food, also very affordable, and we'll talk more about the food, but that was surprisingly delicious.
Chef's kiss.
Yes, very good. And I would say the average food bill was maybe $30 to $40 after we converted. Would you say that's accurate? I was trying to just remember. I didn't even go into our credit card statements.
Didn't go into the swipes. I would say that's probably accurate. We did have a few meals that were a little bit more expensive, but mostly because we had some adult beverages. We were on vacation. So I think if we would just eat the food, it would have been probably 30, 35 easy. But I think with the multiple drinks, probably at like $50 a meal.
Okay. And then good segue into the drinks. I know people want to know about the drinks too, because that's part of the meal. Drinks, I would say, were like once you converted, were maybe like $5.
Drinks are not a part of the meal. I just want to clarify that for anyone else who's listening on there. Drinks are
a
not
part of the
meal, like automatically.
nobody. You're being nitpicky. Okay, so I would say the drinks after you converted is probably like $5. The average drink was probably like $5. For my marg lovers, their margaritas, they're a little different. I just want to speak to you all specifically so you all don't get your hopes up, because I had one and then I had another, and both of them were both like, no, this isn't just not quite living up to what it's just not, it's different.
Rum.
Yes, rum is the drink of choice there. So anything with rum, you'll be good.
Aye.
So you have anything else to add for cost?
No, overall, I mean, just remember the exchange rate when you're buying stuff. There are some restaurants and places that have their prices listed in American dollars. Some places have it listed in the Colombian pesos. Thank you, Queen. So just have that in mind. And then lastly, you can negotiate with not like businesses, but when you're bartering with the vendors on the beach, or even when you go to some of the Capades, negotiate. They will definitely try to up the price on you. Like some dude was trying to sell me these bracelets for like $20 per bracelet, but I speak Spanish and I negotiate, and that was not going to happen. So I got it down to like $4 or $5 per bracelet. So yes, definitely don't take the price at surface level.
The other thing, a couple other quick things I wanted to mention. Tips. So I honestly, I'm not sure that tips are like a normal part of Colombian culture, but I do know that once people knew that we were American, they would ask for tips, or that was became expected. But I feel like I did peep, like when we were in the van for one of the excursions, there was another family there, which I believe I overheard is from Colombia, another part of Colombia, and like they didn't tip when they got out the van.
Didn't.
And so that was something that I peeped, like, okay, maybe that's more of an American thing, that but they know that, and maybe they would expect it. So just something to keep in mind. It's good to keep some dollars on hand just in case.
So let's go ahead, Queen, finish that.
The other thing I wanted to just mention was the exchange. There are several, like,
don't do it in the airport.
Don't do it at the airport. That's the moral of the story I was trying to get to. But there are several like foreign exchange, money exchange places pretty much all over. So I would skip the airport. We have learned several times now not to do it at the airport, because they up the rate, lower the rate.
The rate at the airport was 1,000 to 3,000. The rate in Colombia, when you go to actually the exchange place, was 1 to 4,300. So we literally lost probably, I don't know, $100 in the exchange. So I mean, if you're balling like that, it's not a huge thing. But if you are trying to, pinch the pennies and save $100 here, $150 here, doing the exchange in the actual country will save you some money.
If you do like absolutely want to get some money before you enter, again, you maybe need to pay for a taxi or anything, just do minimal just to get you where you need to go, and then you can find another exchange place to get the rest.
Right. So Queen, can you please give a score of cost to Colombia out of 10?
I would give Colombia probably like a 9 out of 10.
Wow, a 9
out of cost. Yeah, it was pretty affordable for what we got. Like, especially, and again, we'll talk more about it, but when we talk about like food, huge foodies, like even in we didn't even talk about where specifically we were. We were in Cartagena for most of the trip. And then we spent one day in Bogota. And when we went to Bogota, we went to a really nice restaurant that was probably like Michelin star worthy in the States.
For sure.
And it was like $75, which is, for me, like unheard of for that type of service we got and that type of food that we got. So I think just for the experience, the service, I'd give it a 9. It was very, very affordable.
Nice. I'm gonna go with an 8. I do believe it was very affordable, but in like comparing it to Thailand, comparing it to Mexico, I feel like it was a little bit more expensive than those places. So I would say I'm gonna give it an 8. So and then all together, it is an 8.5 for the cost for Colombia. All right. Now moving on to our second category. I think this is a very natural progression. We were already kind of talking about this, the food, the cuisine. Sinclair, talk to the beautiful people, and more importantly, talk to me.
You was there.
I was there, but I want to relive it. Let's talk about the cuisine in beautiful Colombia.
So I have 3 highlights for the cuisine. For me, the highlight of the cuisine was the fresh seafood. It was super fresh. I had a whole fried fish pretty much every day. At least every day. I love just a whole fish that you could just, there's just something, I love picking at it and like getting all the meat and like really like some people, you know, they'd be like suck on the bones of chicken wings and stuff. I've never been that person, but when it comes to fish, I'm like, ooh, come here. So anyways, fried fish, A1. But they also have like smoked fish, grilled fish. Like we went to one restaurant that was really, really good. And, you know, you could choose the fish you wanted and how you wanted it cooked. And it was delicious. So yeah, lots of fresh seafood. We had shrimp cocktail. We had ceviche. Any other seafood highlights you want to throw out there?
Not off the top of my head. I feel like that fried mojada, mojada. Yeah, that was for sure really good, especially in Palenque. I think Palenque had the best fried fish. Shout out to Victor and the whole Palenque kingdom. I'm trying to think of other fresh fish that we had. That's all I can think of.
At Morena.
That was a good spot. Walking distance from our Airbnb. Pretty good drinks, pretty strong drinks, and good food. Great steak tacos. Right, we're off seafood, but those steak tacos, probably the best, if not the second best carne asada taco I've ever had.
Shout out
I think Morena. The best might be in Ensenada, Mexico, but that was a close
delicious second. And just a nice vibe of that restaurant. Highly recommend. The other thing I wanted to talk about is patacones. That was pretty much a staple on almost every meal that we had, and a very, I think, staple in Colombia is basically. Or do you want to talk about what it is?
Yeah, so patacones are unripened plantains. They're squished down. They are double fried. A nice little secret that I think they did was they dipped the patacones once they smashed it down in coconut water. Garlic water. That's what it was. They dip it in garlic water and then they refry it, and this gives it a nice flavor and extra crunch. Something that we wanted to try when we come back. We saw it on some pictures, but we never saw it in a menu. Was like patacones, avocado, and then whatever you want to put on top. Some carne asada on top. Oh my goodness, like my mouth is literally watering right now thinking about it. But yeah, I think the only thing about the patacones is I wish we had more of the ripe plantains. Just as an islander, I like the sweetness of the plantain, but the unripe was still pretty good.
Yeah. So we had it a couple different ways. It's served on the side of, like I said, almost every meal. It's kind of like their side dish. But we also had it on our food tour with some cheese on top, which was interesting.
Good. Yeah, that was good.
I'm not a huge cheese person, so I tasted it for the sake of tasting it, but then I just ate the patacones by itself. But yeah, they were pretty good. They're pretty good. And then last thing I wanted to talk about, which is,
you look very happy about this.
Well, because I know you might get excited about it. It was the Colombian coffee. So yes, we also on the food tour we tried some Colombian coffee, and
was the man's name Sam?
Sam.
All right, shout out to Sam on the food tour, foodies.com.
I think so. I can look it up right now. Yeah. But there's carts like all over the city in Cartagena where you can get fresh Colombian coffee, and it comes already sweetened, which I think is cool. It's of course if you like sweet coffee, because they kind of just want to pour it and like keep the line going. I think that was the idea of it.
Efficiency,
yes. And it was so good. It was so smooth. It was delicious. And yeah, he is not a coffee person, or wasn't a coffee person until he tried that, and now you're semi-hooked.
I don't know about hooked, because here's the thing, y'all. I'm very sensitive to caffeine, so it's like I'll take a few sips and I already feel the energy. So I'm going to be very intentional about how I use it. But I haven't drank coffee in literally maybe since I was like 6. This is my grandpa used to give me coffee when I was a kid, and then my parents found out like it's going to stunt your growth. You're not going to grow anymore. And now look at me, 5'8.5". Thanks. Wow, that was a deep That was a deep, soulful laugh. That came from a spirit. Y'all heard that? But long story short, haven't been drinking coffee really since 6. And people always look at me weird, just like people look at me weird when I say I don't have an iPhone. But went to Colombia. I was like, I hesitated a little bit, but it's like it's Colombia. This is one of the best coffees in the world, right? It's one of their biggest exports. How are you going to go to Colombia and not even try it? So I took a little sip. I was like, whatever. I'm not going to like it. I took a sip. Oh, this is good. This right here. This is what it's all about. So, of course, I drank that whole cup. And each stop after Colombia, I still tried the coffee. In Colombia, I think out of all those spots, had by far, by a pretty sizable amount, the best coffee.
Yeah.
I think the only place that came maybe second was Cape Town, when we had my man's Somalian coffee. That was also pretty good. And it tasted different.
Senegal.
Ooh. Senegal? Somalia. I'm pretty sure it was Somalia.
Yeah. If you say so. I thought it was Senegalese.
Coffee, which was the name of our food tour person in Cape Town. Let us know. But I think that might have been the second best coffee. But needless to say, if you're in Colombia, drink the coffee. It's delicious.
Facts. Okay, you have anything else to add for?
Yes. One more thing about the cuisine is I felt like, I don't know what it was about Colombia, but I think people took food seriously. Every restaurant we went to, like, they really did their best to create a experience. They made was right. There was like really good branding on some of the burgers and some of like the taco spots. Like they knew like every moment was an opportunity for people to take a picture, be on the gram, and get new customers. Some of the drinks that you order, like it would be a whole experience with the drinks for like $10, $13 the drink, and I'll let you tell a story.
Yes.
But the drink would come in it with an entire experience, story, explanation for a $10 drink.
Yeah.
Right. So the queen, no hablas español. No habla español.
Un poquito.
Un poquito, pero es no bueno. So when we were at one of the really great restaurants in Bogota, she ordered a drink, fabulous drink, delicious drink, came with a full experience and a full directive. She understood no words. I'll pass it off to you to tell its full story.
I mean, you basically told it at this point, but yeah, I ordered a drink. It was a tequila drink. It was in fact delicious, but they delivered it on like this wooden plank. And we had told the waitress, like, if you could just speak slowly. Of course, he's saying this in Spanish, but he was just like, our Spanish is not that great. If you just speak slowly, like we weren't like English, please. We were just like, just a little slower for us. That didn't happen. Not at all. So she continued, and it came with a drink, the big drink. It came with another smaller like shot glass that had some type of liquid in it. It came with a piece of pineapple and then a little campfire, as I call it. It was literally like a couple sticks and it had a flame coming out of it. And so she is going to town telling me like, yep, you need to do this. And I could tell her kind of like, she's kind of motioning on what to do. And then she's like, all right. And like walks away. And I'm like, okay, what do I do here? So I'm like sweating, like, how do I drink this? What do I do?
Is this poison?
Yeah. I'm like, what, the fire. That's the
that was the scary part.
Yeah. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with the fire? So the fire ended up going out and I just dumped everything in the drink. It was delicious, but don't know how it was supposed to be drank. But like he said, just the full experience for a $10 drink, you would never get that here. And so that was really cool. And yeah, to his point, even just the decor of the restaurants.
Talk about the entrance.
Oh yeah.
The entrance. Yes.
The entrance to the restaurant we were just talking about that had the drink. It was a Japanese themed restaurant. And so the entrance was amazing. After you kind of like, okay, you have a reservation or no? Okay. So you step in and then they do like a full like meditation type ceremony. And so they have like one of those sound healing bowls. And so they do a little like meditation there. Yes. And then they put a little something on your forehead, which is a little weird because it's like you're in a foreign country. 2, it's like we don't know exactly what's happening. Eyes closed. I'm like peeking to see what's like. I'm gonna make sure he's still there. He's not gonna get taken from me. Okay. And then I see him like do something. I'm like, okay. Then he's gonna come over here. Okay. And then we're like, okay, what's next? And then he's just like, okay, welcome. And then somebody else leads you to your table. But it was just cool, like just off the top, just being able to come into like a full ceremony. It really sets the mood for the experience. So those types of things, you can tell they were very intentional about creating the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then yeah, just even at some other places, we went to a Persian restaurant, and they had some really nice decor. They had live music, they had a belly dancer, they had delicious food. It was delicious drinks.
Yes.
It was just a full thing, and the food was delicious. So yeah, it was a whole experience, and again, it was affordable. So that was like walking distance from our Airbnb. So it's just really cool that everywhere you go, you know you're gonna have something that shows that they were very intentional about the food and the experience.
Yes, ma'am. So score for Cuisine, Sinclair. If you're thinking about it, going through the Rolodex, talking to your taste buds, what score out of 10 would you give Cuisine?
I'm gonna go with an 8.5.
8.5. That's based on what?
Everything we just talked about.
Why 8.5 and not a 10? Why not a 7?
The food overall was good. Why not a 10? I feel like the food was delicious. I don't know that I was wowed at every single meal. For me, a 10 is like, oh my gosh. Oh, Devon, every meal. So I feel like it's gonna be hard to get to a 10. But like I was impressed with most of the meals. I don't think there was a bad meal that we had or something that was like, ooh, I would not go there again. Like I think every place we went, I would go there again, which I think is rare to say. I don't know that I could say that about any of the other trips, any of the other legs of the trip. And so that's why it's higher than I maybe have given other places, but not quite the 10.
Let's see. I think I might match your 8.5. Really great experience. Food really delicious, affordable. Yeah, I think I would match your 8.5. What could have made it better? I'm not entirely sure. The panacones being ripe would have been a 9. Right there. It could have been a 9. But yeah, I'm gonna go with 8.5 as well. So we have 8.5 for costs and we have 8.5 for Cuisine. All right. Now keeping it moving, Sinclair, you picked the next topic. We got Capades and we also got culture. Which one do you want to tackle next?
Let's go Capades.
Talk about it.
Excursions, activities. What did we actually do while we were on this trip? So as a reminder, again, we were in Cartagena for most of the trip. And so one of the I think highlights of that trip for us, and I think we would highly recommend for anybody who identifies in the African diaspora, is Palenque.
For sure.
Palenque it was the first free Black town in the Americas. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you. So in all of the Americas, everywhere where enslaved Africans were taken, they were the first to actually become free and create this whole community of free Africans. And so that was in 1604 or 08. 08. So really early on. And so it's just really cool. They have a lot of pride in that. And it's really cool to go and just see how much they have. I don't remember how recent they said it, but now it is a UNESCO heritage site. So they've preserved a lot of their culture, and it's a very interesting intersection of Africa and Colombia.
Right. It was just very interesting for me. Recently, I've gone to Ghana, my first time being in Africa and seeing that experience there, to then be on the other side of the world, but see a culture that's very, very similar. Some of the language was similar. A lot of the religious practices were similar. The kente cloth and the look, feel was similar. But it was in Colombia, South America. So that was just a really cool experience for me. Obviously, y'all know I'm also a big history person, and to see possibly the first example of a Black Wall Street in the Americas as well was cool to see, like how they protected their community, how they built up their own local economy, and then even learning about like their medicine man and how they practice medicine mixed with their nutrition was all just really cool to experience. So that was for sure.
Sorry, I just wanted to pub them up a little bit. They had 0 deaths due to COVID.
0. health, y'all. Holistic
Crazy.
health, using natural remedies, herbs, teas. Every 3 seconds, I'd be like, Sinclair, we need to drink more tea.
Every 3 seconds.
Because literally every single ailment, my man had a tea for it.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, oh, if you have high blood pressure, drink this, put in some hot water, you're good. Oh, if you're trying to have children, drink this, and you're good. Oh, if you're trying to, everything could be cured almost with herbs and tea. So drink some tea, y'all.
Yes. And that's also where we had one of the best meals. And it was really cool. Again, shout out to Victor, who actually welcomed us into his home. So we were able to see his family cooking the meal that we were going to be enjoying later. So seeing them fry the fish, seeing them chop the vegetables. We got to grade some of the coconut that was going in the coconut rice. And then
best
later
coconut
on,
rice of the trip.
It was delicious. And then it all got served on a plantain leaf. And yeah, it was so good. It was like a fried fish, a whole fried fish that was then covered in this coconut curry sauce with veggies. That sauce.
And they said they also had, and I'm forgetting the exact stat, Victor, forgive me, but they had a book published with Palenque recipes. And that book was voted, I don't know if it was the number one recipe book or top 10 recipe book of the world.
It was number one in some competition. I don't remember what contest he was talking about, but yeah, it was. They know what they're doing there with the food.
they can cook.
They can cook. We need to find that recipe book
for sure. I've been looking for it. But that's probably my favorite capade of Colombia for sure. Probably the second best of the entire trip, just because one, it was a big surprise. Two, just learning that history and then seeing the intersection of Colombia and Africa coming together. Another capade that we did was a apparently island tour. I was asleep, so I didn't see when we crossed over this bridge. But talk about
Island.
Baru
Island.
Baru Island. Talk to us, Queen.
And I think it's kind of like, if you're familiar with California, how Alameda in Northern California is an island. Like, you just kind of go under a tunnel or over a bridge.
Around Manhattan.
Exactly. So yeah, it was really just driving to get there. It was about an hour and a half to get there. And it was really, really beautiful. The water was warm and blue. And we were basically at this jet set. What's it called? Jet Setter. I think it was the name of it.
I booked nothing.
I know, but you knew the food tour name. Jet Set, I think it's called Jet Set Beach Club, which was really nice. They have a bar there, so you can choose your lounge chair that you want to have for the day. They have lockers where you can put your stuff. They feed you. We had another fried fish meal
breakfast
there
and lunch.
Yeah, we had breakfast too. That breakfast was actually good. And then a bar where you can get drinks whenever you like as well. They have a masseuse. There's vendors that are coming.
Now, let me just talk about this masseuse real quick, Sinclair, because I just find it very, very adventurous of us.
It was.
All right. So we're in Colombia. People know we're in Colombia, but at the end of the day, no one can really get to us and help us. And we're getting this massage from this lovely lady who decides, without prompting, to crack our necks. Which was probably, when I look back at it, like, that was some scary stuff. She just literally was like, and it's like, I know she's a professional. I know that's what masseuses do, but yeah, we were very trusting in that moment.
We were, but it did feel good, and we're here.
It did feel good. It felt really good. I also didn't quite like the oil that they use. It smelled a little off to me. I don't know if that's just me being picky, but I would prefer some nice aromatherapy oil, baby oil, some essential oils, just something like that smells good and I can enjoy the full experience. This oil smelled like soap to me.
I see.
I digress.
I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it, but it was nice to just have all of this right there. They had bathrooms and stuff. So and then yeah, there are vendors that are coming. They come every now and then. That's something you're not going to be able to avoid in Colombia. Something to just keep in mind. It was much less aggressive at this island than it was like where we were staying in Boca Grande. Just know, if you plan to actually go to the beach in Boca Grande, you are going to be bombarded. I don't think there's a way to get around that. Even if you, like, we were talking to another couple who had rented the beach chairs, and like, even if you have a little sectioned off spot, like, they're still going to come to you. Then one of them said that, like, she was actively taking a nap and they were like, hey, like, buy my thing. Like, They don't care.
Yeah.
They're looking to make a living, right? If they rely heavily on tourism, and so they are looking to sell something to tourists. And yeah, some are more aggressive than others. So I will just say that. But just know that you won't necessarily be able to avoid that. So just no thank you, no gracias, right? Get used to saying that.
Another thing is I would recommend definitely bringing cash when you go on these excursions. Some of them do take card, but what they don't tell you up front is that there's a fee for accepting the card. So this is what happens, Sinclair. Old girl who was a part of our trip, she was like, oh yeah, we take card. So at the end of the day, we had our bill. And I was like, all right, great. So I can't pay with card. She's like, yeah, let me call the card guy. So then she called the card guy. The card guy comes, and what he does is you takes your card and he gives you cash, but he charges you for that exchange. And he charges like, I think it was like 20%.
Sheesh.
Right. So it's like, if I would have known that up front, we might not have gotten as many massages. We might not have gotten as many drinks, because I was thinking, oh, it's a card, we're good. We only have a little bit of cash, but if it's card, we're fine. And then at the end of the day, it was cash anyway. So something to keep in mind, just bring cash for it, and confirm if when they say card, if they would take it just a straight up swipe, or if they're going to call a card guy to exchange.
Who knew that was a thing?
Had no idea that was a thing. That's literally what this man does. He just walks around with a whole bunch of cash and a card reader, does the exchange. So yeah, something just to keep in mind when you're out there.
Indeed. Anything else? What else would I want to talk about for Capades? I feel like there was one more thing. Oh, the food tour. So we've alluded to it already. A food tour is something that we do on just about every trip. So we did book a food tour for, I think the first day. I think that was the first thing that we did. And so we got to go kind of all around the main Cartagena, the old city. And so we got, that's where we had the coffee.
Yep.
We had patacones with the cheese. We had shrimp cocktail. We had Chinese empanadas, which apparently is a very huge staple in Cartagena from Munoz.
I don't know. Was it North Pole?
Yeah, the restaurant's called North Pole. I want to say the guy's name's like Munoz or something like that. But the restaurant's called the North Pole. Very good, very interesting empanadas, but they were very good. What else did we have? We had some
bread.
Oh yeah. We had some bread that
we went on an adventure to find this bread a second day.
We did. So it was hilarious. It was almost like a breadstick that's filled with cheese, but it's sweet. And if you are familiar with señorita bread, which is one of our favorite desserts, it is very similar to that. And yes, and to his point, we did not like take note of the places we were going. And so the next day when we wanted more, we went on a full-on hunt of like, okay, I think we went this way. And then we found one of some bakery, and it was like, we ended up just getting some because we were like, that looks like the same thing. It was not. It was just some bread.
It was literally like, cheese bread.
Yeah, cheese bread with like some mozzarella cheese or something in it. So that was a fail. But then what we ended up doing is I think you found a picture. We were on Google. You found the some bakery, and then he was looking at the pictures, and I was looking at the pictures that we had taken, and I was like, stop. I was like, that's it. The wallpaper. I was like, it's the same wallpaper. We found
Sherlock
it.
Holmes.
Right.
Real Sherlock Holmes.
And so we went back and got a bunch to take home, which I think, unfortunately, the king ended up getting sick from, or not sick, but stomach ache from.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that bread or something else, but every time I ate that, my stomach hurt a little bit. So I was like, you know what, let me just lay off this bread a little bit.
I continued to eat it. I'm not gonna lie.
That she did.
And then we had like a gelato type thing at the end. But they used
the lemonade. Did we say that yet?
Lime. It's technically limeade. That was really good as well. So yeah, all over the city there are carts that have limeade. They use like fresh limes. They throw the juice in there with the sugar and the water, and it is so good and so refreshing. It was hot outside, and it was the perfect thing. One thing to keep in mind, apparently there are only a few carts. I don't remember the guy's name.
Junior
and his dad. Apparently, we're saying all these names. They're gonna be walking around the city like Junior. Munoz. Sam. So yeah, there's a guy named Junior and his dad who apparently have carts, and they use bottled water so that it's safe for tourists. Not all of the carts do, according to what we've heard. So just something to keep in mind. Make sure you're asking where the water is coming from. If they're catering to more of the local folks, They may not use bottled water. So just keep that in mind.
So if you go to the clock tower, right, go to the monument of the clock tower. Apparently that's where Junior usually sets up. He is melanated, so he'll look like us. And go ahead and get you some lime juice or limeade. And then I forgot what it's called.
Me too.
But you can get like a second glass for free. It's called like a refill, a tip, whatever. And what they do is they refill it literally all the way up again for free, with the hopes of you'll come back to that particular cart in the future. So again, clock tower, look for Junior. Go ahead and get you some limeade.
We also had some candies, Colombian candies.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah.
I actually liked the tamarind. It was like a sour tamarind ball that was pretty good. And I think that covers just about everything we had on the food tour.
The last thing for Capades that I'll say is, this is like what we like to do if we really have a great experience, is go off the beaten path a little bit and do our own thing. So we went out to Trinity Plaza de Trinidad.
Yes.
And we saw some just like random hip hop break dancers out there at night. That was a pretty cool experience. And then we also went to Casa de Palenque, which is like a tri-level bar and club. Really nice views, pretty good music. They had music, like I think 3 different DJs, or at least 2 different DJs on different levels. And then the drinks were pretty good as well. So that was a great experience that we just did. We just had dinner and then walked down, felt relatively safe. There were police out there. That when the police got there, that's when I felt a little bit less safe, to be honest with you. It was interesting. But in general, I like never felt in danger. No one tried to be like, hey, where y'all from? What are y'all doing? There were no vendors that were bothering us when we were at Plaza de Trinidad. It was just like a night out on the town.
Right. And it was cool to see, like, oh, it seemed like there was tourists too, but it was a lot of locals, like, oh, this is just the hangout spot.
Yeah.
And that was cool to just be immersed in that too. So I did want to give kind of a shout out here because we mentioned the food tour. So we did book it through Airbnb, and he was right. It's called Foodies. That's the company. I don't remember what the specific excursion is called. Actually, I'm going to just Street Food with a Chef. That's what it's called. So shout out to Sam. Great tour. I definitely recommend. And then for the Palenque experience, we also booked that on Airbnb. That was called Visit a Piece of Africa in Colombia with a Native Host. Okay, so definitely recommend those 2 experiences.
Yeah, tell them we sent you, right? Victor was like, hey man, get more people to come to Palenque. And we're like, we got you. Tell them we sent you.
Maybe we can insert the video we took of him too.
Yes. Video here, Jair. So Queen, what would you rate Capades for Colombia?
I would probably rank Capades like a 7.5.
7.5. Why 7.5? Not 10, not a 1.
I feel like the food tour itself was really cool, just to see the different food stops. I feel like some food stops were definitely better than others. I feel like it would have been really cool if all of the food stops were delicious. Like the candy was cool. But yeah, overall, I'd say that was good. The island drive, I was just one of my things about booking excursions is I wish we could have that experience right outside the hotel. I don't always like having to drive an hour and a half to get to the excursions, which we did have to do for Palenque and for the Baru Island tour. So, I mean, that is just one of the things you may not be able to get around. But, spending like 3 hours of the day driving isn't ideal. But yeah, overall, I mean, the Palenque was probably like the highlight, just because I feel like we very much connected with the people, the history. It was just something new and kind of mind-blowing to see. I feel like the other excursions I would classify as good/great, but not like
phenomenal. Phenomenal.
And like if we had, I guess maybe what I was missing a little bit of in Colombia is the exciting excursion. So like we didn't do like jet skiing or like, anything like super like fun and exhilarating. So maybe that's just something that was missing for me in the Capades.
I see. I can see that. I think I will go with I'm trying not to copy you, but it's like 7 seems too low, but 8 seems too high.
Sounds like a 7.5.
It does sound like a 7.5 as well. What I definitely liked was the fact that it did feel safe, and we've had experiences where we're in other countries, and it's like we really don't go too many other places other than the excursions because it doesn't feel safe. And I like that we're able to just walk around at night, go to restaurants, go to clubs, go to bars. Uber was very reliable. We were able to get an Uber wherever we wanted to go, so I do appreciate that. I think what could have been a little bit better is more options for adventures and capades, and maybe that was me not looking at stuff, but doing more activities. And then yeah, I can see your thing on like let's adventure, like let's actually do some adventure. So I would definitely do probably a 7.5. The Palenque experience being an 8.5, but the overall capades that we did in Colombia 7.5.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind too is that I feel like if this was our only stop on the tour, we probably would have done more, but we did have to just be budget conscious of like we're going to be traveling for a month, so we have to be strategic about like what kind of free, excursions do we want to do per stop. So that's something to keep in mind too. We probably would have done a lot more if this was the only stop on the tour.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
All right, so we have one more category left. It is the category of culture. We're going to take a quick commercial break and get back to the Colombia travel review. See you soon. Look, we're going to get right back into the amazing podcast. But if you didn't know, in 2017, we created Black Wall Street, the board game, because we thought more families needed to know about the history of Tulsa Black Wall Street. More families needed to know about the legacy of Black excellence left behind of Tulsa Black Wall Street, that we can own a Madam C.J. Walker Beauty Salon. We can have a Booker T. Washington High School. We can have an Uncle Steve's Barbecue. We can have a Renaissance man like Simon Berry, who had his own taxi service and bus service that got bought out by the city of Tulsa. We have brilliance in our DNA, and we wanted to make sure that your family can play a game that teaches them about this brilliance. So we have Black Wall Street, the board game, right here. We had the first edition available in 2017 that got sold out. We're on the second edition right now, or you can get the beautiful masterpiece version of the game as well. It's up to you. Head to playblackwallstreet.com and get yourself Black Wall Street, the board game, to empower you, your family, and generations to come. Playblackwallstreet.com. Let's get back to the episode. All right, let's finish this episode off strong. We've so far talked about the cost of traveling to Colombia. We've talked about the amazing food and cuisine that we got to experience and devour in Colombia. We talked about the capades and the adventures. Now let's end with culture. Queen, what is on your list to talk about when it comes to the cultural experience of Colombia?
Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and we've already alluded to it, is the language. So I think most people know Spanish is the primary language spoken in Colombia.
What?
So almost everybody speaks Spanish. And so it is good to know at least the basics.
See.
Yes, I relied on him a lot, but it is good to know the basics, because it is not guaranteed that everybody that you're going to interact with will speak English. In some of like the hotels and things like that, they maybe do, because they know they're interacting with a lot of tourists from all over the place. But it's not guaranteed that everybody that you are going to come in contact with, it's almost a guarantee with that most people you come in contact with are not going to speak a whole lot of English. So know the basics before you go. And keep in mind too, if you do already know some Spanish, or you do fluently speak Spanish, some things are a little bit different than other Spanish like dialects, if you will. So I think there were a couple of words where we would say something and they'd be like, huh? And then they'd say a different word back. It's like, oh, you have a different word for that. Interesting. Like check. I don't remember what check was there, but we said something and they were like, huh? And then we kind of like motioned and they were like, oh, you mean whatever. And we're like, okay, yeah, that's the word. So, and I've heard that too about like a lot of different places. So just keep in mind, not all Spanish is the same Spanish. So if you are like us in California, the Spanish that a lot of us are used to speaking here is Spanish from Mexico. And so there's a little bit different. There's a little bit different words, a little bit different terms that they use for certain things. So just keep that in mind. But in general, knowing some Spanish is going to help you a lot.
Yep. And utilizing Google Translate on the fly definitely works. You can talk English into Google Translate and it can spit back to you Spanish, or you can do the reverse of it. You can have your mic open and have them say something in Spanish, and then it'll translate it into English. So if you are not Spanish literate at all, you don't have time to practice, you'll still be able to get by using Google Translate and just being a good person. Don't be that person in Colombia being like, oh, I'm America, do you speak? And it's like, no, let's calm down, be a nice person, be a patient person, and you'll have a great experience.
Right. Just remember, anytime you travel, you are going to someone else's
that part
that home. So just, I feel like sometimes I understand when people say like they hate Americans, not because of how we act, but because sometimes we will see how other American tourists act. And it's
what was old girl saying? I forgot, but we both heard it. We both were like,
oh no.
We were like, no, not that one.
So just keep in mind to have that that mindset.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, and there's not too much to talk about here that we haven't already talked about. Music, though, music was a huge part of the trip, and it was playing almost constantly from someplace, whether it was from the restaurant down the street, or or they had live music at restaurants, or just a little band or people playing on the street. There was music everywhere, and so that was really cool.
Indeed. In addition to music, and kind of in talking about the blend of Colombian, African, and Black culture, we ran into some random freestylers on the street.
We did.
During our food tour, some dudes looked at me and they're like, oh, nice beer. And like a dummy, I was like, oh, thanks, bro. And then they came up and just started rapping, and then we had to tip them at the end. But it was still cool to see the blend of hip hop, African culture, and Colombian culture in this moment of freestyle rap.
They were pretty fire. They were going.
They were. And they were like, oh, where you from? Oh, you from LA? And they would do a rap and they would say LA in it. They looked at you and the two other people and they were like, say different names. It was just, it was a cool experience. You can tell that they were actually freestyling. The other part of culture that was good, but also at times a little bit iffy, was the fact that there were Africans or Black people, melanated people in Colombia, which was really cool to, again, see that blend of culture. But and then the other side of that coin was, I feel like they saw us as like, oh, I can exploit you because you look like me. And like constantly they would be like, oh, you're Black like me, like you should buy this. Or they would walk up like, hey, Wakanda forever. Or they would say, hey, what's up, my N-word? But it's like, it's a different experience coming from a non-American Black person.
Or even the older melanated women were like, oh, auntie, tia. And it was just like, oh, I hear you, but
it's like, it was like, oh, I'm your auntie, I'm your tia, come take a picture, come give me money.
It's always money. And I feel like it's a couple of times, a couple of people, okay, but of course you can't, unless you bomb like that, you can't do everybody.
We're not Melanated Married Millionaires in the making.
Get the yellow part.
Yeah, get the yellow. All right. But yeah, overall, I think the culture was definitely very Colombia. Like I felt when we were walking around, in our experience, as we were eating, as we were talking to people, like I did feel like we are on vacation and we are in, for sure, Colombia.
Yes. And another thing, and I won't digress this too far, but so I have family from Cuba, and I've never been, nor do I know much about the culture.
It's on the list, though. We got to go.
Yes, it is. But there was a couple of times where it was like, not only for like the melanated folks, but kind of like the music playing, the Spanish, the food was like, I wonder if this is kind of the vibe in Cuba. Of course, we don't know because we haven't been, but it was cool to see that, like, I don't know, it did feel very different from any other place we've been.
It felt different than Mexico to you.
It did.
It felt different than Costa Rica to you.
Oh, very different than Costa Rica.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And what do you think is that element that made it feel different than other Latin countries you've been to?
I feel like seeing as many melanated folks as we did definitely made it feel different. You don't see that. We didn't see that in Costa Rica. You may see that.
People told me that if we would have went to the other side of Costa Rica, we would have saw it.
Oh yeah.
So we got to go back now.
no. But yeah, that is part of what made it feel very Colombian for me. And then the food was still very different than we had in Mexico and than we had in Costa Rica. It's like a blend of Caribbean and Latin and African, and yeah, it's like fresh seafood. Yeah, it was different in a good way.
Nice. So, what would you rate culture, our cultural experience in Colombia, out of 10, Queen?
I would probably give it an 8.
An 8 for culture. Okay, why?
Just because like we were talking about, it does feel different than any other place we've been. It doesn't feel like any run of the mill place. So far it has been a very unique experience. It was cool to see as many melanated folks, and then yeah, Palenque is holding up a lot of weight in there of just
Like it is.
It's a whole different culture in Palenque than in the rest of, or at least in than Cartagena. And so there's just also still a nice dynamic of different cultures in one place. So yeah, I would say all of that gives me an 8.
Yeah. For those exact same reasons, I'm going to give Colombia a 9 for culture. Just the fact that there's so much rich history when it comes to them gaining their independence from Spain. A lot of the African melanated folks playing a role in that history, the food, the fact that we were able to experience culture and walk around. It was a cultural place, but still, at least where we were, a safe environment. The fact that there's so many different cultures. We got the Chinese culture, we got the Colombian culture, we got the Spanish culture, we got the African culture, we got the uh Persian culture. There's just so many different pieces, like an international experience going to Colombia. You can taste it in the food, you can see it in the music. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Colombia a 9, which means it has a 8.5 for culture.
Mhm.
Now, doing a little bit of a round, what's it called? Yeah, adding up all the numbers. We're gonna do some calculus here. All right. So we got an 8.5 for cost, we got an 8.5 for, what was the second one? Cuisine.
Mhm.
We have a 7.5 for Capades, and we have an 8.5 for culture. Dividing that by 4, we get our final number of a 8.25 for Colombia. Queen, does that sound about right?
That sounds about right. It does.
It's a strong trip.
Yeah, it
Strong
was. It
trip.
was a strong start to our world tour. That's for sure.
For sure. So go ahead and put inside the comments, your thoughts on Colombian food, Colombian culture, or Capades. If you've been there before, let us know what was your highlight of your trip. And if you are thinking about taking a trip, taking a flight to Colombia, let us know what is going to push you over the edge, right? Whether it's the cost of things, whether it's a certain experience you can have, what's that determining factor that's going to have you click book on that flight. Queen, now that you've been, would you, one, recommend it to someone else, and would you, two, go back?
Yes, for both. I would definitely recommend it for anybody who's just looking for something different, something well, different for us because we haven't been to too many other places in that region. But yeah, food was good, people were nice. Like I said, our experience, we felt safe. And so yeah, I would definitely recommend it. And I would definitely go back. I feel like, especially after talking to folks, and there was a lot of, and even on Instagram, I see folks talking about like other places in Colombia. I'm just like, what? I didn't even know about this place. We got to go back. So yeah,
Medellin.
Medellin. I hear good, nice things about there, so I definitely want to go back. And a couple other islands that look really, really beautiful. So definitely, I want to go back.
Nice. Look, see that smile, y'all. I would definitely recommend it for folks, especially my history folks, especially my African folks who want to just learn more about the diaspora. Definitely tap into the history and legacy of Palenque. If you love food, like we love food, it's a great food experience. And then we didn't do too much, partying or outing. We had maybe like 2 nights where we went out. But I think Colombia is also a good space for that. So if you're young, you got your group of friends, right? Maybe it's a bachelor party, maybe it's a bachelorette party, maybe it's just a family reunion, some family reunion without the kids. I think it could be a fun experience for the young folks.
Especially if you like salsa.
Moves.
We
Ooh.
did go to a salsa bar. We did not dance at the salsa bar.
We didn't dance. Yeah, we did.
We did.
Wait.
Oh, we did.
You talking about Casa de Palenque or somewhere else? Yeah, we danced. I danced more than you danced.
We didn't salsa.
We didn't salsa. No, we did not salsa.
But the other folks were getting it. I was watching. I was more. That's why I wasn't dancing. I was just in awe, like watching.
You're shy, Sinclair. It's okay. You're a little shy.
What?
You're a little shy. It's okay. It's the introvert in you. We're gonna get you out your shell, baby. We'll get you out your shell.
We're on a live podcast here, so.
Hello, M4. So if this is your first time tapping into the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making show, we appreciate your support. Make sure you give us a like, a subscribe, and we're really here to promote wealth for melanated married couples and also just lifestyle exposure, right? How can you travel as a married couple and have an amazing experience, still having a podcast, building your brand? How can you what else do exposure wise? How can you start a business with your partner? How can you find tax deductions? It is tax season. How can you write a book? How can you have strategic social media? All that through this podcast platform. So tap in with us on YouTube, Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making. Like and subscribe. And it's the same title on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else you can find podcasts. Sinclair, updates for the week.
Updates are that we still have our Leaders Innovating Tomorrow 12-week financial literacy program where we are going into middle schools and high schools and having the students identify a problem in their community or in their household and then come up with a business pitch that solves that problem. And it's all leading up to a nice pitch competition at the end where they get to come up and select teams. They get to come up and actually share their business pitch for a prize.
Dun, dun, dun.
So that sounds like something that you or some students, or if you are, a part of a school or you, your children goes to a school and that you would want to see this program at, go ahead and give us a shout out or an email at info@playblackwallstreet.com. And let's see if we can make it happen.
Boom. Also in alignment with Black Wall Street, we are taking our Greenwood Adventure annual trip this year, August 10th through August 13th. Y'all can go to playblackwallstreet.com to learn more about that. Tickets are going to be available by Wednesday. So by the time this is edited, chopped up, put up there, you'll be able to go to playblackwallstreet.com and start purchasing your tickets. We're doing a tour of Greenwood with the amazing Terry Backus. We'll be going to the Greenwood Rising Museum, of course, supporting the local businesses and being able to connect with the Black Wall Street entrepreneurs. And then, y'all go get some swag. Y'all go get some Play Black Wall Street swag and goodies too. So definitely make sure y'all tap in. In addition to that, we are very excited to continue this series and cover the 3 additional locations that we got to visit on our M4 World Tour. So if you're liking the travel reviews, if you're liking being able to experience these different locations with us through the phone screen, TV screen, computer screen, speakers in your car, however you're engaging with this audio and content, definitely make sure y'all come back. We still have 3 more locations to cover. Queen, what are the 3 other locations that we are going to do reviews of?
We are going to be covering Lisbon, Portugal, or Lisboa, Portugal, Zanzibar, Tanzania, and Cape Town, South Africa.
Boom. So make sure y'all tap back in to see the reviews of those. Queen, yes. You good?
Great.
Yes, you are. All right, y'all. We appreciate y'all tapping into the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making show. I'm your host, Devon Travell, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game.
And I'm Sinclair, aka the Health Nerd.
Make sure y'all secure the marriage. Make sure y'all secure the love. And of course, make sure y'all secure the bag. Peace. Thank you for supporting the M4 show and our mission to increase the wealth of Black families.
If you received any value from this episode, any value at all, any, do us a favor and give us a like and subscribe on YouTube and Apple, Spotify, anything, all of them, all of them, wherever you're listening, go ahead and like and subscribe.
And after you like and subscribe, make sure you send this episode to at least one family that you really want to see win. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.